In a region characterized by sub-zero temperatures lies a U.S. military base. This region, located 750 miles north of the Arctic Circle, in Greenland, is known to have some of the most deadly temperatures in the world. These temps drop down to about -93 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet, it is the home to some of the bravest men and women of the United States military. How have these individuals survived the cruel and unforgiving weather? Where is this base located? Join us as we explore the chilling environment of the U.S.'s Thule Air Force Base, located in Greenland. Pituffik Space Base, also known as Thule Air Base, stands as the northernmost base for the United States Space Force and the northernmost installation for the U.S. Armed Forces. This base sits on the northwest coast of Greenland, approximately 947 miles away from the North Pole. Aside from being located close to the North Pole, the environment around Pituffik includes icebergs in North Star Bay, two islands named Saunders Island and Wolstenholme Island, a polar ice sheet, and Wolstenholme Fjord. An interesting and unique feature of the Wolstenholme Fjord is that it is the only place on Earth where 4 active glaciers converge. Within this region is the United States' military base, which hosts a significant portion of Space Delta IV's global network of missile warning sensors and Space Delta II's space surveillance and control sensors. These capabilities provide advanced missile detection and space awareness services to organizations such as the North American Aerospace Defense Command, the United States Space Force, and their joint partners. This base houses the 821st Space Base Group, which helps to provide support for the multinational community known as Team Pituffik that stay within the Pituffik Defense Area. It also accommodates the 12th Space Warning Squadron, whose duty is to operate the Ballistic Missile Early Warning System to detect and monitor intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs for short, threats to North America. Additionally, it hosts Detachment 1 of the 23rd Space Operations Squadron, a part of Space Delta VI's global satellite control network. With a 10,000-foot runway, the airfield manages over 3,000 U.S. and international flights annually. Furthermore, it boasts the distinction of housing the world's northernmost deep-water port. Moreover, Pituffik Space Base has played a very significant role as a regional hub for various installations, including Cape Athol, Camp Century, Camp Tuto, Ice Cap Radar Stations, P Mountain, J Site, North and South Mountains Research Site, and a research rocket firing site. It has also been useful in constructing and supplying high Arctic weather stations, such as CFS Alert and Station Nord. How did this Arctic tundra become one of the most critical bases for the United States? Let's take a journey through the history of Thule Air Base. The history of the coldest base ever can be traced all the way back to the 19th century, to the year of 1818, when the Scottish Royal Navy and a polar explorer, Sir John Ross, and his groundbreaking expedition made initial contact with nomadic Inuktun in the area. While James Saunders' expedition was from 1849 to 1850 aboard the HMS North Star in North Star Bay, he identified and named several significant landmarks. Afterward, Robert Peary, a fellow American Navy explorer, constructed a supportive station by a sheltered harbor at the foot of the iconic Mount Dundas in 1892. The harbor functioned as a base camp for his expeditions and attracted a permanent population. In 1910, explorer Knud Rasmussen established a missionary and trading post there. He named the site Thule, after classical Ultima Thule. The Inuit referred to it as Unmunk, heart-shaped, and it's commonly known as Dundas today. However, the United States abandoned its territorial claims over the area in 1917 in connection with the purchase of the Virgin Islands. Denmark later assumed control of the village in 1937. Now that the origin of the name Thule has been explained, let's move ahead to see how this base dubbed its second name, Pituffik Space Base. In 1951, a group of huts called Pituffik, which literally means the place the dogs are tied, was situated on the flat land where the base was built. One of the main streets was also named the Pituffik Boulevard. However, the affected people who lived there had to move to Thule. But in 1953, the USAF wanted to build a defense site near that village. So the Danish government moved the old Thule village, which had about 130 people living in it, to a new place called Qaanaaq, or New Thule, which was about 60 miles, or about 97 kilometers to the north, a move which was perceived as unfair by the Danish Supreme Court in 2003. During the proceedings, it was recognized by the Danish government that the movement was a serious interference and an unlawful act against the local population. To pacify the affected people who were displaced from their homes, the government had to pay a total of 500,000 kroner as damages to the Thule tribe. Also, the members of the tribe were compensated with 15 to 25,000 kroner as well. However, a Danish radio station still works at Dundas, and the empty houses that were vacated are still there. Afterwards, the United States Air Force used that site for only about 10 years. It has since been returned to the natives and is used by them. Knud Rasmussen was the first to see that the Pituffik Plain would be the perfect location for an airport. USAAF Colonel Bernd Balchen, who built Sandrestrøm Air Base, agreed with Rasmussen's idea. To secure the spot, Balchen flew 2 planes to Thule on August 24, 1942, and then wrote a report supporting the idea of an Air Force Base to USAAF Chief Henry Hap Arnold. However, the air base built in 1951 is a few miles away from the original airstrip built in 1946. It is also on the other side of the bay from the old Thule settlement, connected by an ice road. According to a treaty, the joint Danish-American defense area covers a large inland area as well as the airbase itself. In 1939, war breaks out in Europe. After Germany occupied Denmark on April 9, 1940, Henrik Kaufmann, the Danish ambassador at the time to the United States, made a deal on behalf of the king with the U.S. This allowed the U.S. to protect the Danish colonies in Greenland from German attacks. However, Kaufmann was accused of treason by the occupying German government. The first U.S. installations at Thule were set up after U.S. Secretary of State Cordell Hull and the Danish minister to the United States, Henrik Kaufmann, signed an agreement in Washington, D.C. on April 9, 1941. This agreement, which was rejected by the Danish government, permitted the U.S. to operate military bases in Greenland as long as there was a threat to North America. Starting in the summer of 1914, the U.S. Coast Guard and the War Department built weather and radio stations at various locations in Greenland. In 1943, the Army Air Forces established weather stations on the east coast of Greenland, including Thule, which was operated by Danish personnel. Although many other sites were set up, Thule was not considered to be very important at that time. After Denmark was freed, they approved the Kaufmann Treaty but tried to take control of U.S. installations. However, in the summer of 1946, the radio and weather station got upgraded with a gravel runway and a balloon observatory. This was part of a plan between America and Canada to build weather stations together in the far north. The station was run by both the U.S. and Denmark. It moved the civilian village at Thule to mainland Pituffik. From 1946 to 1951, the airstrip was important for bringing supplies to the Arctic, doing aerial maps, research, and rescue missions. When the treaty was approved, not much changed, except that the Danish flag had to be raised alongside the U.S. flag at the base. In 1949, Denmark joined NATO and stopped trying to remove the United States bases. When the Korean War started the following year, the USAF started building bases worldwide. Thule was seen as one of the most important bases because it was across from the USSR and was the northernmost place that could be easily supplied by ships. Thule also became crucial in America's plan for nuclear retaliation. Bombers from the Strategic Air Command flying over the Arctic were less likely to be detected early compared to using bases in the United Kingdom. Thule could also be used defensively to intercept bomber attacks coming towards Canada and the U.S. from the northeast. In settling, a panel of Air Force officers led by Gordon P. Saville proposed the establishment of a base at Thule in November 1950. This recommendation garnered support from the Joint Chiefs of Staff and received approval from President Truman. To replace the wartime agreement between the U.S. and Denmark, a new treaty regarding Greenland was ratified on April 27, 1951, with its provisions coming into effect on June 8 that same year. This new agreement was prompted by a request from NATO. and it was integrated into the NATO defense strategy. The treaty stipulated that both nations would facilitate the use of Greenland's facilities by NATO forces for defending the region known as the Greenland Defense Area. Later on, Thule Air Base was constructed in secret under the code name Operation Blue Jay. The project was made public in September of 1952. Construction for Thule Air Base began in 1951 and was completed in 1953. The construction of Thule is said to have been comparable in scale to the enormous effort required to build the Panama Canal. The United States Navy transported the bulk of men, supplies, and equipment from the naval shipyards in Norfolk, Virginia. In June of 1951, an armada of 120 ships sailed from Naval Station Norfolk. There were 12,000 men and 300,000 tons of cargo on board, and they arrived at Thule on July 9, 1951. Construction, aided by continuous daylight in summer, took place around the clock. The workers lived on board the ships until quarters were built. Once they moved into the quarters, the ships returned back home to Virginia. However, on June 16, 1951, the base was accidentally discovered by French cultural anthropologist and geographer Jean Mallory and by his Inuit friend Kutikitsok on their way back from the geomagnetic North Pole. Originally set up as a base for the Strategic Air Command, Thule was used off and on in the 1950s as a backup base for B-36 Peacemaker and B-47 Stratojet planes. It was also a great place to test how well these planes could work and be maintained in extremely cold weather. Similar tests were done with B-52 Stratofortress planes in the 1950s and 1960s. In 1954, they built the Globecom Tower, which was a large tower for military communication at North Mountain. When it was finished, it was the third tallest man-made structure on Earth and the tallest one north of the Arctic Circle in the Western Hemisphere. During the winters of 1956 to 1957, 3 KC-97 tankers and one of 2 RB-47H planes took turns flying over the North Pole to check for Soviet defenses. Before taking off, 5 KC-97s had to warm up their engines in ridiculously cold temperatures of -50 degrees Fahrenheit to make sure that at least 3 of them could actually get in the air. After flying for 2 hours, a B-47 aircraft would meet them at the northeast coast of Greenland, where 2 KC-97s would give it more fuel. The aircraft would then fly for 7 hours doing reconnaissance, while the tankers would go back to Thule, refuel, and 3 of them would fly back to meet the B-47 on its way back. The B-47 can be airborne for about 10 hours and cover an area of about 4,500 kilometers on average, unless bad weather forced them to go to one of 3 other places: England, Alaska, or Labrador. Sometimes these flights happen during the dark 24-hour Arctic winter from December to February, without even any moonlight. These flights showed how capable the U.S. Strategic Air Command was to the Soviet anti-air defense. In 1959, the airbase became the main hub for the construction of Camp Century, located about 150 miles away. Camp Century, which is also known as PM-2A, was built into the ice and powered by a nuclear reactor. Officially, it was a research base, but it was actually the secret location for Project Iceworm. Project Iceworm was a top-secret U.S. Army program of the Cold War, which aimed to build a network of mobile nuclear missile launch sites under the Greenland ice sheet. The camp operated from 1959 to 1967. Meant to be a city under the ice, Camp Century was designed to be a series of 21 horizontal tunnels spidering through the snow. Designers boasted that once complete, it would be 3 times the size of Denmark, replete with a movie theater, hot showers, a chapel, a library, chemistry labs, and most importantly, a portable nuclear reactor. Designed to house nearly 200 residents, the top-secret missile base in northwestern Greenland, far north of the Arctic Circle, was publicly touted as a remote research community under the auspices of the Army Polar Research and Development Center. In reality, it was a top-secret plan to convert part of the Arctic into a launch pad for nuclear missiles. Dubbed Project Iceworm, the city, nestled under layer after layer of ice, was to be positioned less than 3,000 miles from Moscow. During the Cold War, the frigid location offered the U.S. Army a more covert and convenient cover for its medium-range ballistic missiles, or MRBMs. The project was to take advantage of the strategic location of Greenland, midway between the two superpowers. During the late 1950s, the Distant Early Warning Line, or DEW Line, 1 to 4, were constructed as weather stations. Thule Air Base served as a supply station for these DEW bases. Eventually, in 2020, Thule Air Base officially became part of the United States Space Force. Then, on April 6, 2023, it was given a new name, Patuxent Space Base, to show that it's now a Space Force base and to honor the local name for the area. Despite the extreme cold, the base serves as a crucial outpost for the United States military, providing support for scientific research and serving as a key location for monitoring activities in the Arctic region. Thule is home to a diverse array of military personnel and civilians who work together to keep the base running smoothly in the harshest of conditions. From conducting search and rescue missions to maintaining critical infrastructure, the dedicated individuals at Thule Air Force Base work tirelessly to ensure the safety and security of this strategic outpost. So next time you think it's cold where you are, just remember the brave men and women enduring the frigid temperatures at Thule Air Force Base. Thanks for watching. Are there bases in the world with more extreme weather conditions? 29 Palms, perhaps? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Also, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.